okay. That already looks promising. I told you guys this is not a good change. There we go. Hit him where it hurts, right in the nuts. Okay. Infestor. Oh god. Last time I almost got a stroke when I was reading these. Dr. Cutie. See that? Dr. Cutie is on the case. Fresh out of the oven. I guarantee Blizzard released this 10 minutes after my starting stream time. They know. I know there's someone from Blizzard watching now. Welcome. And, well, new balance update, October 29th, has just been released. Okay, we're gonna go quickly through them. Last time I was talking about balance changes, I said take out the free units, nerf Infestor, and I said many other things. So we'll see if I got any of my wishes come true. Hi all! In the excitement before the culmination of this year's WCS finals, Blizz ZVZ con, we think it's a good opportunity to revisit the proposals made earlier in the month with a fresh perspective. Okay. That already looks promising. Special thanks to Wardy and his Balanced Task Mod Invitational, which showcased these new changes in action. I wonder if it showcased that Zerg wins anyway. After further watching games and following feedback, below are the changes we'd like to make to the testing queue. Reverted. Viking health increased from 135 to 150. I told you guys, this is not a good change. Based on feedback, we'd like to pull this change back for now due to concerns surrounding the Viking's subsequent increased power in TVT as well as its increased strength in earlier parts of the game. If the Viking has any advantages, we believe that exist later on when endgame units and their effect abilities start coming into play. True. That's why 15 health is not going to do shit. Thus, if necessary, we'd like to instead tackle the Viking strength in late game with alternations to endgame units from other races such as Tempests, rather than the Viking itself. Well, Tempests aren't the issue for the Vikings. Vikings counter Tempest. Tempests are not the issue. The issues are spellcasters. But hey. Okay, so that's the first change. Reverted. Battlecruiser Tactical Jump cooldown increased from 71 to 86. Okay. Reverted. Removed the Research Neural Parasite upgrade. Infestors now come with Neural Parasite by default. That was ridiculous. Like, I'm glad that's gone. That was ridiculous. Like, when I saw that, I was like, come on, man. So they try to nerf Battlecruisers. That's now removed. Right? Reverted. This is reverted. Altered Tactical Jump now stuns. They removed this too. Yeah, because the Battlecruisers, like, if this patch was like 3 months ago, okay. But Battlecruisers at this point, everyone knows how to deal with them, and they're not really meta anymore. Like, people make them, but they're not overwhelming in the current meta of the game. So these changes were, like, kind of a little bit too late, but also made no sense. Especially this one. Last update, we tested a variety of Battlecruiser related changes aimed at broadening the counterplay options against the unit. At the same time, we believe the ways in which Battlecruisers are currently used are overall pretty good. After feedback, we'd like the prune and alter our changes such as that we improve the feelings of fairness when you fighting against Battlecruisers. Does anyone feel when they fight Battlecruisers that it's unfair? That's the first time I heard that. I heard a lot of things about Battlecruisers, but them being unfair is not one of them. At the same time, preserve the core of the current Battlecruiser play. Thus will be removing changes to Tactical Jump and reinstating the Neural Parasite upgrade. We'll also be keeping the vulnerability phase on Tactical Jump with one key alternation. Stun effects such as Interference Matrix, Fungal Growth, and Abduct will no longer be able to cancel Tactical Jump and put it on cooldown. Wait, so that's a buff. Oh, so wait, they're keeping this, like, it has a 1 second vulnerability, but these abilities don't cancel it. Okay, got it. So even if Interference Matrix lands, it will still teleport out, like the recall. Okay, got it. But it will still have a second, like, you know, stun before it teleports. That's what I understand. This change brings the behavior of Tactical Jump to be more similar to both Strategic Recall and Mass Recall. Okay. Reverted. New upgrade found on Twilight. Yeah, that was ridiculous. That was funny. That was silly. Reverted the Adepts. Yep, that made no sense either. I already said this upgrade that they intended to give to Adepts said it was just weird. No one's gonna get it. Like, no one. It'd just be useless. So, yeah. We'd also like to put on pause on these changes in favor of some alternate proposals. For Zealots, we hear concerns regarding Protoss' result overall power level after this change. For Adepts, we hear feedback that this upgrade isn't impactful enough, so if it were introduced, we would do so with slightly altered stats. Okay, this is the big one. New changes. Active creep tumors may no longer be cancelled. There we go. Fuck, Zerg. There we go. Hit him where it hurts. Right in the nuts. Okay? This might not seem like a big thing, okay? It like in lower leagues. This is actually a big deal at a high level. This specifically is for TVZ the most, because there's literally no point anymore to have, you know, back in HOTS and Wings when you had like Hellions in front of the Zerg creep and you denied it? It literally doesn't make sense anymore to do that because they have an Overlord, and then if they see your Hellions, they just cancel it. So now, when they use the creep spread, they have to be more careful. Also, if this goes through, then Terrans can go back to denying the creep much more effectively and sniping the creep tumors, because now, if you use it, you can't go back on it. So this is actually, Zerg creep won't be like, oh, it's gonna be, non-existent. But this is actually, in my opinion, a big change at a highest level play in TVZ specifically. I don't think this is gonna matter at all in PVZ. In PVZ, you don't really focus on creep spread, and even when you do, not a big deal. Not a big deal. And then ZVZ, same thing. No one cares that you can't cancel creep tumors. So this is actually nice. This is actually a very good way to nerf creep without nerfing the creep, if that makes sense. It's a nerf to a creep, but it's not a huge one where it will be unplayable and, so I like this change. They didn't play with the creep specifically, like it recedes faster or recedes slower or whatever. It's just like good change. Overlord. Pneumatized carapace research cost increased from 75 to 100. When we initially made the change to reduce the cost of the upgrade, we had been receiving feedback that the different variations of various PvZ models, because Zergs are crybabies, all-ins were too difficult to differentiate and scout. Since then, we've received the national feedback. The Zerg have gotten better at defending. Exactly. Listen to me. Whenever there's an all-in, there's a major difference between balance changes for all-ins and balance changes for core part of the game and late game, okay? If there's a problem with an all-in, where an all-in is too strong, there's almost always, I'm not going to say every single time, but almost always, people need to figure out exactly how to defend it. And making the fast changes for the immortal all-ins, which I also thought, by the way, it had to do with the previous map pools. In my opinion, I didn't mind this change too much to help the Zerg because it wasn't a severe change. But this just proves that Zergs were crying, and by the time this change went through, they already figured out how to defend the immortal all-in. So this was actually, if this is Protoss, right, on the balance scale, and this is Zerg, it was like this for a while with the immortal all-ins, and then it was stabilizing, right? Zergs were learning how to defend it. One drone extra, one drone less kind of thing. And eventually, it started tilting, right? And then it went into the favor of Zerg just a little bit. You could still win with it, but Zergs were able to defend it. And then what happened is this change went through, and then Zerg went even better because they didn't need this buff at a point where the buff was given. And this is the problem with balancing all-ins. It's hard to balance them because by the time the balance patch comes out, it might not be an issue anymore. So this only made it so that Zerg is better and not nerfed, an all-in or whatever else. Even though it did nerf the all-ins as well. And the changes to the War Prism in the same patch were alone sufficient at dealing with this issue. Additionally, oh yeah, the range, right? Additionally, we believe the upgrade is currently too omnipresent in both ZVT and ZVP, leading to players feeling less able to surprise their Zerg opponents. Well, yeah, you can't surprise them because they always scout you. Thus, would like to revert this previous change, we believe will lead to more thoughtful decision making regarding when to research this upgrade. Okay, see, this is, I got asked about this from Blizzard specifically. I said that the change shouldn't be like 50-50, but I think 75-75 is a good start because it's not such a huge change. But what I do like is that Blizzard is able to say like, hey, we buffed this because the all-ins were an issue. Now they're not an issue anymore, and we're gonna revert it. And that's a very good thing from a company point of view to say that, to just be like, it's not needed anymore, we're gonna revert it. That's good. Infestor, oh god. Last time I almost got a stroke when I was reading these. Removed? Let me just... Hold on. Removed the Infested Terran ability. Hey, it feels good, huh? Huh? Free units have no place in RTS games. Get out of here with that shit and please keep this change, okay? We can work around the ability that they're gonna add that I'm about to read. Just remove free units. They're terrible, okay? Terrible. Good job. Okay, new ability. Microbial Shroud. Is this Mixer Shroud? Creates a shroud that obscures ground units below, reducing the damage they take from air units by 50%. Huh. Lasts 11 seconds. Energy cost 100. Okay. Cast range 9. That's a lot of range. Why does it have 9 range? That seems a little... So this is ability you cast on your own units. Seems a little high, but okay. Radius 3. How much is the AMP? Radius 3 is big. Isn't it? Radius 3 is like... Is Radius 3 like bigger than Storm, right? Fungal is 2.5. Yeah, so it's bigger than Storm. Okay. New upgrade found on Infestation Pit. Evolve. Okay. Requirement high. Oh, you need... Okay, you need to upgrade it. I was like, what does the upgrade do? But you upgrade to get it. Okay, it requires Hive. And you also need to get Neural. Oh, man. Man, shit. Okay, so this is a very interesting ability. Now, this actually caught me completely off guard because I did not expect they're gonna add an ability like this. So this is basically like a Dark Swarm for Brood War. Storm is 1.5 and EMP is 175. Okay, so yeah, it completely caught me off guard. So it's basically Dark Swarm from Brood War, except it's 50% and it's only from air units. Now, I understand why they did it. I just didn't expect this change. So the reason why they're doing it is because, I mean, they're right, but they're also, in my opinion, wrong about this. So they're adding this because they're removing Infested Terrans, right? Obviously. And they think that Infested Terrans countered air units. Not necessarily. Neural counters air units. Neural is the problem versus Battlecruisers, Carriers, and Tempest, right? Yes, Infested Terrans are obnoxious and they're good against everything because they're free units, but the real issue is the Neural, right? But because I guess they needed to kind of, you know, compensate for losing Infested Terrans, and they went with this ability. But honestly, I don't know what else they could add. I mean, I would have to think about it, but... So let's see, what effect is this going to have? ZVZ, I mean, not really, right? I mean, like, even if it's mass muta, it's never like mass muta versus ground units. And plus, you would probably just click fungal and win and parasitic bomb, right? So this is not going to be seen in ZVZ. I don't think so. There's almost never Broodlords either, and it only works for ground units. PvZ. Let me think about this. PvZ. What kind of armies are we talking here? So like a Hydra army. Hydra Infestor army with the Shroud, right? I do think this is a completely new ability, so we would have to see this in games, but this kind of ability creates for actual counterplay, okay? So this is something I've talked about many times before. Free units don't have counterplay because they're free, and whoever says, oh, so Storm is a counter, they're dumb because you don't have 50 storms to kill free units. Free units are super cheap, right? They don't really have a counter. As long as they trade for 1 unit, they're traded well, as long as you don't waste all your energy. But in this situation, let's say you have a carrier, High Templar Disruptor army, right? Or carrier army, right? Versus Hydra Infestor army, so you can fungal the interceptors if they're bunched up, and you can also cast the Shroud. So now, when you put the Shroud, I would even say, honestly, I would even say it's fine to put, how long does it last? 11 seconds. I'm not 100% sure, but I would even say that they can buff this to 75%. Honestly, like, even buff it to 75, 80%. The reason for that is it only affects the attacks from air units, right? But not only that, it actually has a lot of counters. So the counters for this is, again, Hydra versus carriers. You throw down the crap on the Hydras, and then you fungal, right? The counters are Storm, the counters are Disruptors, right? You can use the Disruption Nova into the Shroud. You can storm the Shroud and kill the Hydras that way. Plus, you can have Colossus as well. Wait, Colossus are going to count as a ground unit, right? Because they're technically flying unit as well. Probably it's a ground unit. So basically, it has a lot of counters. And I think that 50% is maybe a little bit too low. I would honestly say to give it a 75%, so that you are forced to use your ground units or AoE on the Shrouds. I think that would be fair. Because otherwise, I mean, another option would be to maybe have it 50% versus air from air attacks, and then 25% versus ground units or something like that. 50% is big. I mean, it is big, but they're not going to be able to cast billion of them. That's the thing. And remember, there's no infested Terrans anymore. The Hydras will not have... there's nothing to soak for the Hydras. Like, guys, as much as I hate the state of Zerg as it is right now, and as much as people think that I just want the Zerg to be nerfed to the ground, I am very realistic about Zerg. And I've been saying Zerg is broken for a while. But I don't think 50% is enough. I think they should make it 75% or 50% air, 20%, 25% ground. I think that would make it a lot more fair, because again, Hydras, you have to take this in consideration. Hydras will have no front shield for them versus ground units. There's nothing. I think 100 is too much. I don't like 100. I never liked a damage reducing for 100. The reason for that is you can get into some stupid situations where the Zerg has 30 Infestors and you have like Tempest Carrier with like 5 High Templars, and they literally just spam Shrouds onto your bases and they just kill everything, you know? So I wouldn't say even 90 is too much. I would say 75% is more fair, or 50%, 25% for ground, something like that. I do like this change. Again, I'm talking about this and ranting about this so much because you guys know from the bottom of my heart, I hate free units. I think free units are ridiculous currently in the game because they're too strong. Free units are fine if they're not better than units that cost money. That is the real issue. If Infested Terrans dealt, you know, right now, I don't know how much damage they deal. Let's say they deal 10 damage now. They deal like 14 against air. If they dealt 5 against air, that's fine. They're free units. They're not supposed to be good. Infested Terrans dealing 14 damage is ridiculous. It's just insane. That's more damage than Hydras. Or the other proposed Infested Terrans that they had with bonus damage, more damage, they dealt more damage than Hydras. That's ridiculous. I like the path, the change they're going with. I don't think it's enough. I think they're going to probably need to buff it. But I'm glad they're exploring other ways. Now, TVZ, I mean, obviously this is going to be versus Liberators and Battlecruisers. No one's going to use this against Banshees. I mean, who makes Banshees? Like, maybe you make 5-10, but you do kind of like snipe bases with them. Not really, you know. So, with Liberators, there's some interesting numbers. Obviously, for carriers and Battlecruisers, it's kind of like very obvious damage reduce. It's 50% DPS damage reduce. But it probably has a lot of interesting numbers and breakpoints, damage breakpoints with Liberators, because Liberators deal a high amount of damage. So by reducing them from 50 to 50%, suddenly the Liberators will not 1 or 2 shot a unit, they're gonna 3 or 4 shot. So this is actually a very, very big buff versus Liberators, or very big buff. Very good spell to use versus Liberators. Obviously, if you have Battlecruisers, you're going to try to move away. You're not going to fight above those areas. But Liberators are different because they siege up, and then the Zerg can cast the Shroud and then move into the Liberators. So I think this is going to create a fun and interactive engagements versus Liberators versus Mech. But again, I don't know how good it will actually be. I think it will need a buff. Other than that, I mean, what can it be used with? I'm only talking about Hydras because if you're facing an air army, it makes the most sense for you to make Hydras, right? Like, you're not gonna make Roaches or Ultras. I mean, you might. Like, you can also use this with, like, Ling Ultra Baneling army to get Infestors. And if the Terran has Marine Marauder Ghost Liberator, then you can use the Shroud to, you know, help the Ultras not die to Liberators straight away. Infested Terrans were never amazing mid-game or obviously early game. They were insane late game. And what people fail to realize sometimes is that this change, removing Infested Terrans, not only directly influences the fights, but it also influences the way that Terrans and Protosses are going to play. That's the thing, because if there's no threat of Infested Terrans, you can engage differently. You can use different unit compositions. And that's very, very big. And I feel like this change is moving towards StarCraft where units are fighting instead of where spellcasters are fighting in the late game. I think whenever you have, I said this many times, whenever you have an RTS where spellcasters dominate, that's bad for the game. That's not an RTS. That's, I don't know what it is, but... A big question, for example, 50% Battlecruiser damage reduction and then armor reduction, or armor first and then 50%. That's a good question. How does this work? That is a good question. So which one comes to the effect first? If a unit deals 10 damage... Oh yeah, this is actually big. So let's say a Battlecruiser, a unit, doesn't matter, deals 10 damage. If the unit that they're shooting has 3 armor, if armor comes to effect first, or 2 armor, if armor comes to effect first, the damage will go from 10 to 8 and then 50% reduce, which is going to be 4 damage per shot. But if the spell comes in first, it will be from 10 to 5 and then -2 to 3. So that's also something we need to test and figure out. That's something we need to figure out because that's quite a big deal. If it's the second one, that's a huge damage reduce. You know, it's well over 50% damage reduce. So that's actually a very good question. I didn't even think of that. You can test it in an arcade. We can test it later. How would you find it if it was 25% ground, 75% air? These are the numbers I think that they need to be played with, but I don't know if 75-25 would be too strong. Because if that's the case, you're kind of... I mean, I don't know if that's the biggest deal. If that's the case, then that's a lot of damage reduction. And honestly, if I was playing against that, I would preferably use spellcasters against that than actual units at that point. I would... first, what I would do if I was Blizzard, I would either go... Well, I would first see some games with 50%. I do think 50% is too weak. Then I would increase it to 75% versus air. And if we see that the air units are just not being built anymore because of it, and suddenly everyone's just massing ground units versus Zerg, right? Then I would go with 50% versus air and 25% versus ground. And if 75% is not enough, and it's just like kind of I would go 75-25 for ground. 50% is a lot. I don't think it's a lot. It has a lot of counterplays. That's what people are missing. This spell has a lot of counterplays. Snipes, Ghost TMPs, Colossus, Disruptors, Storm. So I don't know. I do think it will need a buff. Well, we will see. I have to play test and see this, but I do think it will need a buff. Sorry for staying on the topic for so long. This is it's extremely big change that is going to impact pro level quite a bit. While we're not completely shelving the previously proposed change, you should just don't shelve them. Throw them in the trash can. To the Infested Terran, would like to try an alternate proposal. This new ability is designed to replace the anti-air role that the Infested Terran ability occupied. I don't know. A key difference, however, is that Microbial Shroud acts as more of a force multiplier rather than a standalone spell with lethal potential. This means that Mass Infestors will be significantly less powerful than before, and that other Zerg ground units would have to be mixed in for maximum effectiveness. Oh man, imagine if Zerg had to make more than one ground unit in the late game with Broodlord Infestor. That sounds crazy, right? In an RTS game? Whew, that's how it should be. Like, regarding the balance, that's how it should be. Like, what do you mean? Oh shit, oh my, they're gonna have to build other units? Whoa, man. You can't just make Infestors and win? Sounds terrible. Well, our first iteration of this ability has it gated on Hive, as we believe that having this ability unlocked on Lair Tech restricts mid-game airplay too much. I disagree with that. I disagree with that 100%. I mean, what mid-game airplay? I can't think of a single situation. Hive is too late? No, it's not. I can't think of a single situation where you need this spell in the mid-game versus mass air units and you're gonna have Infestors for it. That's just not gonna happen. BCs? Well, you're not gonna use this spell versus like 2 battlecruisers or 5 battlecruisers. Like, you're gonna neural them. Why would you do this spell when you just neural them? This ability is made to deal with masses of air units, not versus, 3 carriers or, Wait, this is gonna work versus oracles as well. Because it doesn't say projectiles, it just says reducing the damage they take. But Oracle doesn't have an auto attack, it's a spell. And if you guys don't know, the Oracle attack isn't reduced by armor. Oh, the first iteration of this spell will not protect buildings nor colossi. Nor will it protect against Oracle attacks, Colossus attacks, or Yamada Cannon. Well, it shouldn't do against Yamada Cannon, it's a spell. It can also not be cast while Infestors is burrowed. That's good. That's great. I'm trying to think. I mean, I guess I understand why they made it so the buildings don't benefit, because you might have... Well, actually, I don't know if that's good or not. Would it be really a big deal if buildings were protected by it as well? You can't really, like, perma-cast this on, like, 20 spore crawlers in the late game. Spores? Yeah, but it costs 100 energy, guys. It lasts 11 seconds. What do you mean? I don't know about that. I think it's fine if it affects buildings too. Because it's 11 seconds, right? It costs 100 energy. When Zerg makes mass spore, they never make them in a line. It's always like they're always spread around. So I don't think that would be a big deal. Listen to me. Listen to me. I said this last time. Do you guys remember the Town Hall guy that wrote the last patch changes? The Town Hall guy and the same guy that suggested the Infested Terran damage buffs did not make these changes. These changes right here that you see, these changes are made by the same guy that made the Raven change. Okay? Blizzard probably fired the Town Hall guy. He's gone. These changes are made by the guy that put in the Raven change that suggested, okay? I mean, I'm not gonna take the credit, but I will. A Nidus Worm cost increased from 50-50 to 75-75. Literally yesterday. Actually yesterday, I was saying that they need... The problem with Swarm Host versus Protoss is not the Swarm Host, it is the Nidus. So we were watching BlizzCon, right? WCS round of 16. All the Protosses lost to Niduses and Swarm Hosts, not because of specifically Swarm Hosts, but because of Niduses. They're way too spammable, they have no risk involved, and they're way too cheap. I would love to see this. Honestly, they should just put it 100, or 175. It's insane how much you can spam it. I mean, if you guys watch WCS, Zergs use like 30 Niduses per game. And then Protosses deny like 5, and then 1 goes through and Protoss loses the Nexus. That's stupid. I'm sorry, but that's stupid. We generally enjoy the increased usage of Nidus Worms this year. Too many Nidus Worms. I agree. I enjoy increased Nidus Worm usage. too many right now. And one of the keys to its increased usage is its decreased worm cost compared to 100 last year. However, at the moment, we believe that Nidus worms are slightly too cheap. True. Specifically in the early and mid-game stages after a Nidus network is built. At this fragile economic timing, a failed Nidus worm might not be punishing enough, and just the threat of the Nidus could pin too much of an enemy army at home. I have a suggestion for Nidus. As we already have 2 proposed changes to the Nidus network Nidus worm, we'll be evaluating which of these changes should go through, including the possibility of having all 3 go live. That's right, all 3 go live. I like that. At the same time, however, we want to ensure we preserve a certain percentage of the Nidus's power. Oh, don't worry, you will. As we believe it's a key to encouraging map-wide multi-pronged attacks for Zerg, blah, 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 blah. Now listen to this. Listen to this. This is a huge suggestion I'm going to just give out. Huge suggestion coming in. How about the Nidus network remains the same cost. Nidus worm costs 50-50, and each next time you use it, it costs 25 more. That way, you see Niduses, but you can't just spam them like a monkey. You actually have to be like, oh shit, it's getting expensive to do this. And it would cap out at a 150 or 125 or something like that. Because this way, you can use it in the early game, but there's an increase in cost with each time you use it, and then it caps at a certain point. What if you make 2 worms? That's fine, you make 2 worms, but then you have to make an extra Nidus worm. That's the whole point. And then it is actually, it's an actual investment. Right now, it's not an investment. I've talked about this many times. So obviously it would cap. It wouldn't just go forever. But 50-50, 75-75, 100-100, 125-125, 150-150. They can cap out at 125 as well. That's fine. But I think this way it preserves the early game potential while it's increasing in cost as the economy and as the game is going. See, this is the problem with this suggestion that I just gave. Blizzard will never do this change because Blizzard doesn't like doing changes that are too complicated. And I think this falls into category of too complicated. And also they can have it so that after a certain amount of time, like let's say 3 minutes of Nidus worm not being used, it goes back to 50-50. I think that would make a lot of sense, and it would prevent Nidus worm spamming, and it would actually make Zergs think when they use Nidus worms. But I don't think this change would ever go through. I think it's, like I said, too complicated. You need to stop at 300. No. What I'm saying is like, it would cap out at 125 or 150. But, I mean, I'll take this as well. I don't know if 75 is enough, honestly, but I guess we'll see. Any kind of nerf for the Nidus versus Protoss. Nidus is not really a big issue versus Terran, right? It's used. It's not a big issue. Versus Protoss is where Nidus is painful. How about you can only load 12 units in the Nidus at a time, but as you add more Nidus worms to your network, you can add 12 more. I like that idea. And you can have a hive upgrade that increases the number of units you can fit into the Nidus worm or Nidus network. What about a cooldown on the network? That would work too. Adding a cooldown on the Nidus worm for like 30 seconds or 20 seconds is also a very good nerf and a very good way to solve swarm host Nidus worms, which honestly are the biggest issue right now regarding all 3 matchups. Their issue in swarm host Nidus worms versus Protoss. So by adding cooldown, that would also help quite a lot, and maybe that is the best solution. Maybe leave it at 50-50, just make it so it has a cooldown of 20-30 seconds. Okay, next one. Zealot. The charge upgrade no longer provides Zealots with +8 damage on impact. Instead, it increases movement speed. Zealot movement speed from 315 to 472? Wait, they still have charge with this? No, that can't be right. It still has charge? Honestly, this sounds a little ridiculous. 472. How fast is the Oracle? How fast is the Zergling? Speeding off creep is 6.5. 472 is the stemmed Marine? Jesus. Concern we've had regarding the Zealot is its raw frontal power, especially when compared to its ease of use and the relative difficulty of defending against them. Thus, would like to try this change that aims to exchange its direct power in favor of increased mobility. This change will also restore the age-old relationship between weapon upgraded zealots and carapace upgraded zerglings. Because an exchange of damage for speed moves its power into a drastically different area, we categorize this change as very experimental. We'll especially be looking at how to increase speed impacts the relationship against kiting stimmed units. Well, they're gonna crap all over stimmed units. I mean, if it moves as fast as a stimmed marine, and then it also has charge, like, do you know how bad this is for siege tanks? Do you know how bad this is for Widow Mine dragging? Like, Protoss is gonna run in 5 zealots with this speed and they're gonna kill your whole army. What do you mean it also has charge? People have said that it also has charge. No? Look, it says the charge upgrade no longer provides zealot with +8 damage on impact. It doesn't say that it doesn't have the charge. That's the speed during charge? That doesn't sound right. Wait, normal speed is the same? Okay, everyone's saying different things. We need to test this in the game. Some people are saying this is the speed of the charge. I don't think that's true. Charge speed is already insane. Yeah, this seems like guys, it says zealot movement speed. So not charge speed, movement speed. And it has charge. That's weird. Like, I don't know what to think about that. Okay, moving on. I don't know. Like, I actually really like the changes that make the units different. I always said this. And I really like what they said right here. Right here. Age-old relationship between weapon upgraded zealots and carapace only upgraded zerglings. I really like that. But this seems very extreme. What I would prefer to see is maybe even remove charge. No charge. But make the zealots just be like Brood War zealots, where they're extremely quick. Like maybe up to 5 or something. I wouldn't mind that. But having both charge and this, like they're gonna be so fast. Like just give it zealot legs. Like honestly, you know what I would do? Now that I think about it, give them like a 5 speed. Let's say 5, or maybe even this. But then the buff also gives them 20 shields or 20 health. I think that's better than having, like, because what's the point of the charge then? They overlap. It doesn't make sense. Like, I don't know, maybe I'm the only one, but it sounds weird to me to have this insane movement speed but can also charge. It seems unnecessary. It's like a double buffing the same thing kind of thing, you know? So I think it would make sense to give it maybe 20 more shields or 20 more health with this speed and just remove charge altogether. I don't know. Anyway, Adept. Resonant Glaives reworked. Oh, hold up. Oh, shh. Instead of increasing attack speed of the Adept by 45%, it will increase the attack speed of the Adept by 60% for 6 seconds after completing a psionic transfer. This has to be a nerf. I don't like this. I mean, okay, so this is basically, I don't like this. So, I think this is a bad change. I'll tell you guys why. They're basically wanting for Adepts to be a harassment unit, right? And this change is further pushing the Adepts that way. But this is the problem. Yes, it will be better if you're shading into mineral lines and fighting. But you're gonna lose the 45% attack speed when you're not shaded, right? So if you're not constantly shading, they're gonna be shit. Guys, they're gonna be trash. Do you not realize that they're gonna be unupgraded Adepts unless you're shading? Like, that's a nerf. That's not good. And also, 15% attack speed increase from 45 to 60 is not worth losing 45% attack speed at all times. So I don't like this change at all. I think this is a nerf for the Adepts. I understand what they probably want to do. They want to change, like, kind of pull away the Adept from the Zealot, from them not having the same role. But this is making it so that, like, oh, he's going Adepts, so he's just gonna all in and shade him back and forth the whole time. Also, another thing, you're removing a playstyle if you do this, because there are a lot of pushes against Zerg, and in PvP actually, and sometimes against Terran, with Adept Sentry Mortal. So if you add this change, those pushes are done. Like, no one's gonna, like, why would you get this? Because in those pushes, you use the Adepts as meat shield with Sentries and Immortals. Like, this is not a good change. I understand they want to, again, to make them separate from the Zealots. This is not the way to go. Especially at the highest level. I mean, guys, if you see like 6 Adepts, you know that it's most likely an all-in, right? At that level. No one makes 20 Adepts like just to harass, or nobody's gonna get this upgrade to make 2 Adepts, right? You're gonna make it to make 10 plus. And if you're having this upgrade and you have the Adepts and the Zerg or Terrans or Protoss, they know you're gonna all in. And then even that is making Adepts worse. This is a bad change. This should not go through. Out of all these changes, this is the one I'm 100% sure it should not go through. We view Adepts as having 2 primary problems. It role overlaps that of the Zealot, as it's viewed as having low utility in the late game. We believe, which we believe is due to the Zealot overshadowing it. Not only do Zealots and Adepts have similar matchups against enemy units, they both control and function similarly by being a strong frontline attacker. I mean, you should have probably thought about this sooner. Just saying, this point was brought up in Legacy of the Void Beta. Internally, we call these units pushers. This is especially exacerbated by the previous version of Resonant Glaive's upgrade, which highlights the raw frontal power of Adepts and draws away from its distinctiveness and coolness. Coolness, okay. Yeah, this is definitely not written by the Town Hall guy. Which we believe comes from its psionic transferability. Thus, the new direction we'd like to take with the Adept is to rework the Resonating Glaive's upgrade into one that moves it away from the direction of being a strong pusher and towards the... Adept will achieve only 92% of its previous upgraded damage when used optimally. What? In a frontal fight in long term? Wait, are they actually expecting you to do a frontal push and shade Adepts on themselves in order to get the buff? No one's gonna do. Why would you do that? You can just make Zealots. No one's. Guys, come on. Blizzard, listen. Maybe Town Hall guy was like, you rehired him and you like made him or asked him for a change and he made this one. Like, just fire him again. This is not gonna happen. Who's gonna shade on top of their own army to get the shade upgrade for 15% attack speed? Like, you have to hit force fields, you have to warp in, you have to micro with the prism. Ain't nobody got time for that. But like, what do you mean? It will become much more effective at burst damage, for example, after shade in for surprise worker harassment. It does completely fine right now. You don't need to buff that. It does absolutely fine. That's not the problem of the Adept. The Adept is already excelling at that and is way better than Zealots in mid-game. Yeah, it's not seeing use in the late game because Zealots are better units. And yes, they do overlap, but like no one's gonna use Adepts at a high level. I can tell you that right now. I don't need to play a single game. This is just not a good change. This new upgrade could add a back and forth dance where both players attempt to engage during their preferred Adept state. Because every time you use your shade, the other guy's going to use his shade. And you're both going to have it. But let's say that's a situation that actually happens. You're both going to have it. No one's going to get this upgrade. Unless they're all inning. Bad change. Mothership. Added heroic tag. Neural Parasite can no longer target heroic units. Man, oh man. Due to increased power of the newly improved Time War, we have concerns that the power swing gained from adopting and then neuraling a mothership might be too high. Remember what I told you last time? Giving Mothership Time Warp was the biggest scam in the game, because the Zerg takes her Mothership and then Time Warps the Protoss army. Remember that? With this change that heavily leans into its gameplay fantasy, that's what I'm here for, gameplay fantasy, the Mothership will always be able to contribute to the fight in favor of Protoss player. Wow, hey. Wait, but you can still abduct it. I don't mind that, because I do think it should have some kind of counterplay, right? But neuraling was always stupid. Okay, some bug fixes, who cares? Listen, overall, this is a great patch. Blizzard, listen to me. Please, I know Blizzard watches these videos, and I know they watch my rants. Fire the Town Hall guy. I 100% think he made the adept change. He has no clue what he's doing. This is a terrible change, okay? Town Hall guy, I'm sorry. Charge upgrade. I like this. I like that they're wanting to change it. I like this specifically quite a lot. I love this. But it doesn't make sense for the Zealots to have charge and increased movement speed. I think they do the same thing. They overlap, and it doesn't make sense. Maybe have it so that they're like Zealots from Brood War, but maybe the upgrade gives them the speed, this speed right here, and it gives them more health instead of charge. Just remove charge altogether if you're gonna do this. Otherwise, it's just gonna look stupid, to be honest. Like, you know, Zealots are gonna fly in front of your army now, and then not even they're gonna fly, they're gonna charge in as well. So I don't think that makes sense to have both of those. This is terrible. This is great. This is amazing. And I like that you can still abduct it. That's good. Let's see. This is great. And they even said they might include the other two nerfs. That's great too. This is very interesting. I do think it will need some kind of buff. I mentioned already, Infested Terrans. Please have this stay in the game. Please. Or go live in the game. I hate free units. Can we have everyone in the chat, if you guys want Infested Terrans removed forever from the game, please type PogChamp right now. Just to make sure I'm not the only guy who hates free units and thinks they're stupid. There we go. Look at how many PogChamps. Look at that. Look at it. It's there. Please remove free units. They're terrible. They're ruining the game. Nobody likes them. Thank you for the PogChamps, guys. That was beautiful. What do you guys think about this ability? Give me a kappa if you like it. I like it. I like it. I think it's not finished, but I think it's going into the right direction. Okay, we see a lot of kappas. Okay, that's great. That's great. Okay, there you go, Blizzard. You can see the kappas on the screen, literally right there. I think this is a good change, and I think this will make for better playing experience and also viewing experience. Pneumatized carapace, I mean, they kind of addressed this, why they changed initially, why they're changing it back. I don't think we need to cap our PogChamp for this one. Active creep tumors. Now, hey, this is a good one. Somehow, I don't know why, but out of all these changes, this is the one that makes me happy the most. I don't know why, but it just makes me smile when I see it. Like, I'm just like, yeah. Hey, no more canceling of the creep tumors. Now when you place it, that's it. That's all you can say. Okay, overall, I think this is a great patch, in my personal opinion. I think a lot of these ideas are very interesting. A lot of these ideas are what I always harped upon. If you guys know, whenever I did patch review changes or whatever, I always said, I don't care about balance. We want design changes. We want different units, same units, with different abilities, different usage out of those units, because we want the game to be fun. Yes, game needs to be balanced. You can't have a clown fiesta, but we want different unit designs. It got a little bit stale, guys. Let's be honest. And I think having this design change, I think having the Zealot design change, the Raven change, I think those are the things that change the way the game is played. If you add 5 health on that paperweight airplane called Viking, no one's gonna care. No one's gonna log in and be like, oh man, oof, man, I can't wait to make Vikings with 5 extra health. Nobody has ever said that in their life, okay? But I can guarantee you, a lot of people are going to be logging in to try the new Zealots. A lot of people are interested. How is it going to look like? A lot of people are interested to see how the new Void Rays are going to look like with the new speed. That's what we need in the game, okay? Can we have a lull in the chat if you guys agree with what I just said? And if you guys agree to this patch notes are great. Give me mass lull right now. Blizzard, listen to your community and listen. Look at how many lulls. Everyone wants this. Okay? Make risks. We want a fun game. Yes, there should be balance. We want to have fun. I want to log in and I want to be like, man, them zealots with them long legs. Okay? That's what I want. And that's what everyone wants. If you guys are interested, I'm going to have a long-ass layover when I'm going to Blizzcon, which is tomorrow. I thought about getting a little notebook and writing all the changes I can think of for StarCraft 2 units, for the units that are bad or I would personally change. I literally have like 6-7 hours. I can write it all down and I can make a video about it if that's something you guys would be interested in. But that's it for the video. For you guys on Twitch, we're going to keep streaming. Let me know what you guys think. For you guys on YouTube, thank you for watching. Let me know what you think about these changes, and please be vocal about these changes. Please let Blizzard know that this is the path we want to go towards to. The path of fun, actual smart changes, and down with the town hall guy. Just fire the town hall guy straight away. Beasty should find town hall guy at BlizzCon. I better not see him. Town hall guy, if you're there, don't show your face to me, okay? I don't want to meet you. That's it. Thank you guys for watching on YouTube. For the guys on Twitch, let's keep going.